Welcome back to GregTech. In this video, I want to show off some improvements I've made to my ore processing setup that I showed off in the last video. So, not long after making the last video, I realized that these type filter blocks exist. In the last video, I showed off a setup where I had as many of these interface pipes as possible going to a single input chest to go into these ore processing machines, because Project Red Transportation doesn't have any way of filtering to a type of item to use in these item responder chips. But I have now learned that these type filter blocks can be set to only accept certain types of items, and while the item responders can't be set to a certain type, they won't put anything into a chest that it can't accept. So by just having these item responders set to accept all items and then do all the filtering in the type filter block instead, then instead of having 108 or whatever different item filters, one for each individual item, I could just have this one type filter that's set to all crushed ores, and that just handles it. So that is way easier. That does mean that I don't get as much fine-grained control over the system. Like if I want one type of ore to not get washed in the ore washer because I don't really care about its particular byproducts, I can't do that anymore. But I've decided I don't really care because most of the time... What the heck? What are you doing in here? What the fuck? Okay. Yeah, I've decided I don't really care, and I'm just going to send all of the ores through basically the same processing line. In my setup before, I had one of these ore washers set to normal ore washing mode and the other one set to simple washing mode, but I've now set them both to ore washing. That was the main bottleneck, is the washing of the ores. Previously, I didn't have enough steam to actually run two ore washers at once. Previously, I was pulling the steam partially from my Steam Age based setup, and I was just running into power failures, even running one ore washer sometimes. But I have expanded my power supply first by up here where I have all these advanced boilers. I've added a super tank here which buffers 4 million steam, and then in order to get the steam out of the buffer fast enough, you have to use one of these steam valves. So that provides enough steam for this wall of machines to never power fail. And then additionally, through here, I have added a large bronze boiler, which apparently has a maintenance issue. Okay, and now that should be fine. Yeah, I added this large bronze boiler to produce, I think, something like 12,000 steam per second. And that is more than enough to run both of the ore washers at once. I also added this air purifier because the bronze boiler produces, I think, 1,000 pollution per second, and that was causing pollution issues. And I've wanted to build one of these anyway because I kind of want to build all of the multi-blocks in the game, even the ones that aren't so useful. So after giving this air filter, which is just powered from the steam from the boiler, after giving it medium voltage energy hatches and mufflers, it's able to clean up basically all the pollution from this bronze boiler, so I don't get any debuffs walking through here. And then just because my water source was really far away from the boiler and I didn't want it to explode, I've added one of these simple Stirling water pumps right next to the boiler in the same chunk so that it won't run out of water if I'm off somewhere where the water pump chunk is unloaded. To have enough charcoal to burn for this boiler, I needed to expand and automate my charcoal production. So this brass pipe provides all the charcoal, as I showed off last time. And in order to increase my charcoal production, I needed to make this advanced coke oven, which produces charcoal I think 90 times faster than a single one of these coke ovens does. So that's way faster, and that's enough to power the large steam boiler. I've still got just this one high pressure steam compressor handling all of the charcoal compression. I've started using, now that I can make them, I've started using these item conduits in a lot of places. So these are super useful for just moving anything around. So here this advanced coke oven, unlike the normal coke ovens, needs to be fueled with some kind of coal. So with this one item conduit, I'm able to by enabling self-feed here, it can just pull out and put back in the charcoal. So that keeps it super simple, and then any overflow, because of the priority system, first it feeds into itself, and then the overflow it will send over here into this compressor. Now, previously I was feeding this barrel of logs manually. However, that needed to be automated too, so if we follow where this pipe goes, down the stairs into the very unfinished basement. Let me have a little snack. Yeah, down here in this very unfinished basement, I now have a wood farm here using these crop sticks. So I have this crop manager and 3 layers of these oak crops, and this just automatically harvests oak logs, and then all of the saplings and apples that it also produces just get thrown in the trash. So yeah, this little automatic tree farm is just enough to power all of my log needs for now, and that's what I needed to provide enough steam for my new setup. Let's grab this chest here from one of my automatic miners so we can actually show the system in action again. So this is the input chest. So with the new type filters, this is so much simpler. I've got 4 type filters that end up in the macerator, one for raw ores, one for ores, and then I also have filters for chipped gemstones and flawed gemstones. And after it gets macerated, it gets sent to the ore washers. This is the step that takes the longest. And then, since we don't have access to the high voltage macerators yet, all of the outputs from the ore washer just get sent to the forge hammer. And then from the forge hammer, it gets sent into the centrifuge. This is all the same as before, just that it's much simpler. In addition to what I had before, I've added a couple new things. Most importantly, this electrolyzer. So I wasn't able to make this electrolyzer in the previous setup because I hadn't advanced far enough yet. But this gets me lots of important resources. The challenge with the electrolyzer is that it requires specific amounts of input at once, and if you don't have that exact amount, then it just gets clogged because it can't start the recipe. So in order to work with that, I discovered these regulator blocks, and you can set certain items and an amount, and it will only accept that item, and it will only output that amount at once. So once it gets up to 11 sodalite or 14 lazurite, it will output into this barrel, and then this barrel will output into the input of the electrolyzer. Another challenge with the electrolyzer is that it outputs fluids, and it can output them both into cells or directly as raw fluids. So in order to keep this working, I need to keep this stocked. I need to keep this item slot stocked with cells, and for that I have used a logistics pipe system. So this logistics pipe is saying to keep a stack of empty cells stocked in this machine. And then this is a fluid extractor logistics pipe, which extracts the fluids. I've also added another centrifuge over here for any dusts that need to be centrifuged in specific amounts. So previously, vanadium magnetite needs to be centrifuged in groups of 2. Previously, I just had this directly inputting to the big centrifuge over there. Now it goes to this regulated centrifuge so it doesn't get clogged. And then I've also added a sifter. This is more the old way of setting these item filters. I've just set specific things to go to the sifter because I don't necessarily want everything that can be sifted to go to the sifter. So this automatically sifts my diamonds and emeralds and such, and any flawed or chipped outputs will go back to the macerator, which I've already shown, through these tight filters. And then since when macerating chipped gemstones you get small dusts, I've also added over here, you can't fully see the whole setup here. This type filter will accept all small dusts into this chest buffer, and this chest buffer only outputs anything in amounts of 4 into this packager, which will package up the small dusts back into regular sized dusts that can be processed further. All of the outputs from the machines now go through this ceiling Project Red transportation pipe, and then all of the inputs go through the floor. And then anything that doesn't have an input destination, that doesn't go into any machines, will just end up, this type filter is inverted, so it's capturing everything that's not a purified ore. Anything that is not going into any machine will go into this chest, where it will get extracted into my logistics pipes storage system, which I am not going to show off in this video. But that's basically where the outputs of the ore processing setup go. I actually ran into an issue with extracting the outputs from the electrolyzer and centrifuge using Project Red transportation. It doesn't seem to be able to extract from these machines, and I don't know whether it's because it has too many outputs or what, but I had to output into a buffer chest in order to extract the electrolyzer and centrifuge outputs back into my Project Red transportation system. This is another example of why item conduits are so nice, because with the same pipe I can extract the dust to be electrolyzed into the electrolyzer and extract the outputs from the electrolyzer into the buffer chest just by using different channels. This item conduit inserts on the green channel and then extracts on the brown channel. So by using channels I can just do both operations in the same item conduit, which is really cool. And that basically covers my new ore processing setup. I am very pleased with how this looks at this point. I guess we'll end the video with just sort of watching it go again, just like last video. Bye!